Ambition, Collective Knowledge, and Success Career Conversation Series, a series of events offered throughout the year as we continue to create safe spaces where diverse experiences are welcomed, valued, and respected. My name is Carol Altalia, and I am the Provost and Vice President Academic at Sheridan. As we gather this evening virtually, we would like to acknowledge that all of Sheridan's campuses reside on land that has been and still is the traditional territory of several Indigenous nations, including the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, the Métis, and the Mississauga of the Credit First Nation. Since time immemorial, numerous Indigenous nations and Indigenous peoples have lived on and passed through this territory. We recognize this territory as covered by the Dish with One Spoon Treaty and the Two-Row Wampum Treaty, which emphasize the importance of joint stewardship, peace, and respectful relationships. As you may be joining us from different territories, we acknowledge the many diverse nations and territories you are joining from. Sheridan affirms that it is our collective responsibility to honor and respect those who have gone before us, those who are here, and those who have yet to come. We are grateful for the opportunity to be living, working, learning, and thriving on this land. Tonight's discussion will focus on how our brand matters and how volunteering is in the community can enhance your personal growth and professional development. Joining us this evening is Dr. Janet Morrison, Sheridan's President and Vice Chancellor, and I would like to invite her now to offer some opening remarks. Welcome, Janet.
Well, so thank you so much, Carol. I'm so pleased to be here tonight. I heard there were 100 and some odd people tuning in, so we're thrilled about that. This is a really important discussion to be having during Black History Month. The agenda is impressive. The list of speakers we're certainly proud of. But I first and foremost want to affirm that Sheridan is committed to holding these important conversations often, all the time throughout the year. Because if we're going to make real change, and I firmly believe that we can, these topics must be woven into our regular day-to-day activities. So it's been 6 months since calls for social equity drew attention again to the systemic racism members of our BIPOC communities continue to face. For many in these communities, those calls and the subsequent actions and reactions are long overdue. These past few months have also given me time to reflect on my privilege and how I have benefited from it personally and professionally. Conversations like the one we're having here tonight are critical if we're going to overcome systemic racism. I hope you will have the chance to talk openly and honestly about the value and importance of volunteerism and the role we can all play in strengthening our communities. I hope you'll take the opportunity to ask questions of the panelists who've all built successful careers. They were all Sheridan students once, just like many of you. I'm proud to welcome them tonight and want to thank them for sharing their experiences with all of us. So of course, conversations aren't enough. Meaningful action is crucial to creating an inclusive environment where everyone can bring their full potential and experiences and know that their unique contributions are valued. I'm very proud of how my colleagues have rallied to take action to examine barriers in our culture, our policies, our practices, curriculum, pedagogy, and interpersonal relationships. We've committed to doing better, in part because I believe that education is the most important tool we have to create equitable communities where we can all flourish. That means making sure everyone has access to post-secondary education. So Sheridan is working towards that goal. And tonight, I hope you'll be inspired to lead in your community and think about how you personally can make a difference. So our moderator today is Evangeline Chima, the founder of Black Mentorship Inc, or BMI, which strengthens leadership opportunities for all people by connecting Black youths, professionals, and entrepreneurs at different stages of personal and professional growth with experienced mentors through a unique mentoring program. I'm so pleased to announce that Sheridan has now entered into a formal partnership with BMI to bring this critical development experience to our Black students as part of our overall career programming and our commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion. So together, our organizations will identify, train, and pair Sheridan alumni with current students to support networking, knowledge sharing, career clarity, and readiness. I'm so excited about the synergies that can be drawn from our strengths as we begin this important initiative. Evangeline created BMI after experiencing racism as a Black professional woman in Canada. After being overlooked for promotions, experiencing bias, and feeling frustrated that she wasn't achieving her full potential, she created Black Mentorship to inspire, to support, to mentor Black professionals. Evangeline has been named one of the Black women to watch, and she's been nominated for a Woman of Inspiration Award. Her dream is to see every Black professional shine and reach their full potential. Welcome, Evangeline, and thank you so much again for being here.
Thank you so much, Janet. I am so pleased to be here. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Good evening, everyone. I am delighted to be here today for the second series of our joint session. Black history is all of our history. We cannot discuss the Black struggle and success without acknowledging our allies' contributions that generations past worked alongside Black men and women to fight for racial equality. To deliver the fundamental reforms required, we must build the framework we need to propel Black success stories, Indigenous, and other minority groups. This work requires all of our joint efforts. This is why I am exceptionally happy about our partnership. Together, I know that we will empower the next generations of leaders to be whoever and whatever they want to be. We must work to create the pathway that ensures our top leadership management is diverse and inclusive. Thank you, Sheridan. Right now, I have the utmost honor to introduce our excellent keynote speaker, Ingrid Wilson. Ingrid is an accomplished senior executive with almost 30 years of experience in corporate human resources, board, and business strategy in various industries in regulatory environments with global expertise, including the US and Europe. Ingrid has a deep knowledge and understanding of diversity, equity, inclusion strategies, psychological safety and wellness programs, learning strategies to eliminate systemic issues and barriers to foster an inclusive, safe, and respectful work environment. Ingrid is a recognized speaker and has participated as a panelist addressing systemic racism and unconscious bias. She's a certified mediator and trained facilitator. Ingrid sits on many boards and volunteers her time and expertise with many organizations such as the Ryerson Human Resource Mentorship Program, Rotman, and of course, Black Mentorship Inc. Last year, I had the utmost luck of connecting with Ingrid. Her passion for contributing to propelling Black excellence is so contagious, and I know there is no better person to partner with to host our first Black History Month celebrations. So I said to her, Ingrid, come on, we have to do this together. I must tell you that if we are to challenge and confront anti-Black racism, we need the Ingrids of this world. Ingrid.
Hey, it worked. Thank you so much, Evangeline. Hello, everyone, and I'm so honored to be here today. So let's talk about the importance of volunteering in the community and the importance of volunteering for each of us. So a quote that I especially like from Maya Angelou that resonates with me in terms of volunteering is, as you grow older, you will discover that you have two hands, one for helping yourself and the other for helping others. So why is volunteerism important to our society? So volunteering is important for a couple of reasons, all that we know. So it offers essential help to worthwhile causes, to people in communities, families in need, and the wider communities around us. So not just for Black people, but for Indigenous people and other racialized groups. Volunteering is a two-way street. So it can help individuals and families as well as help the cause that you have chosen. So the benefits of volunteering are vast for the volunteer, but it's also great for the community, the individual, and the organization that's receiving your assistance. So why do Black people avoid volunteering? So I'm going to tell you a story about growing up in Jamaica. So my mother worked as a marketing executive and was on TV, but she was also a community leader, and she embedded volunteerism into everyday activities. So a tradition that was created by her father and my grandfather, who I remember sitting in front of him while he was eating his favorite cheese, and all the girls in the family around him telling us, as young girls, we have the power and we have to share that power. So after school, certain days a week, my mom would pick me up from school and we would go off to volunteering. And, you know, I never thought to complain about it, mostly because I'm Jamaican and we do not complain to our parents when we're told to do something. So, you know, to me, it was part of that process that we were going to volunteer. We're going to help provide food. We're going to after school programs and help with homework and sit side by side with the communities. And that was natural for me to continue that process as an adult. And my husband also liked to volunteer in the community, and as a sports person, helped bring soccer volunteer sports to our community, and our neighbors set up a program with one of the Brampton schools where we helped young Black people do homework on the weekends. So volunteering is something that's embedded. But I want to tell you about the stigma of volunteering and why many Black people avoid volunteering, and not just Black people, but people in general. And the stigma is, I have work commitments. I do other things in my spare time that may be more important. I have to look after children or my older parents at home. I never even thought about it. And I don't know any groups that I need to help. So first off, we need to identify where to go and who to ask about volunteer work. So there's a lot of volunteer programs and causes like Black Mentorship Inc, but we don't know where to look for them. I was lucky enough that Evangeline reached out to me and introduced her group, and we started talking. Authenticity is important. So individuals need to feel that the interests and the causes and the communities they're supporting are really the communities they're supporting. So what they're doing is going to the community and not just supporting a program. Black people want to be involved with a cause on an organization where they can share their life experiences. So like me growing up and volunteering, you know, how can you bring that forward? What can you share on a broader base within your community? And then getting to know other people we wish to engage with as volunteers, and recognizing the importance of engaging our communities with sensitivity and respect. And then recruiting potential volunteers by crafting and sending empowering messages. So if you want to get the Black community to engage, you need to engage with empowerment and personal and authentic messages. So don't just assume that the Black people are going to come to you to volunteer. The organizations need to start talking about what their cause is and how Black people can help, and then build relationships and trust. So why is volunteerism important to you as an individual? So dedicating your time as a volunteer expands your network and can boost your social skills. So doing good for others and the community can provide a natural sense of accomplishment. Your role as a volunteer can also give you a sense of pride and identity. So building your brand, volunteering is important for your career. And much like the Sheridan BMI are talking about today, it's building that brand. So a lot of young people coming out of school don't understand that experience is an experience, whether you are paid or not. Volunteering is experience. And if you can connect with a professional, a Black professional, or someone that you know who's working, and offer to volunteer to build experience, that's great. I have a young lady who's volunteering with me right now. She's just come out of finished her last year in HR, and we've talked about volunteering with us and learning about HR programs, etc. So volunteering in that way shows potential to potential employers that you have initiative, that you're out there building experience, that you're willing to give your own time to improve the world around you. And it's an incredibly competitive job market. So if you can start building that experience coming out of school as a volunteer, you're still showing that you are learning and capable of working and learning new things and building new skills. So it gives you the opportunity to practice important common skills used in the workplace. So communication, teamwork, problem solving, planning, and organization, all those things that you can offer to a community-based program. So volunteering is essential to prove your skills when you do and go out for work and interviews. And you need to look at, even if you're not in HR, some of the programs, the certifications and renewals, they will accept volunteer experience for certification. So for example, the Human Resources Association actually does accept volunteering experience as working towards your certification. So your CHIRP or your CHIRL designation. So that is it for my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions, although I can't see the chat.
That is awesome, Ingrid. Hi, I'm back.
Hi. And I'm still here.
Yes, you are. And please don't go away. If we do have questions for you, we would like for you to come back and answer the questions. I'm not seeing the questions right now, but I will say just hang around. I'm sure we will be getting back to you sooner than later. All right. Thank you for that. That was really, really wonderful. I liked when you talked about volunteering being very important and being an experience that we need to all, we can add in our resume, because oftentimes we tend to think it's volunteering. What use is it to me, to my career growth? So thank you. Thank you for sharing that insight.
You're welcome.
Okay, let me start to introduce our lovely panelists. Quickly reminding everybody about housekeeping. If you do have questions, don't forget, add your questions in the chat. We have lovely team looking out to answer and address and bring your questions forward to us. I would like to now introduce our Sheridan alumni panel members for tonight's discussion. They will share insights into volunteerism, personal branding, and about the importance of investing in your community and, of course, in yourself. Sheldon Williams. Sheldon is a seasoned insurance professional who started his career in 2001. Since attending Sheridan College, Sheldon has navigated the business world and successfully owns a licensed insurance brokerage. He is also the vice president of the Canadian Caribbean Association of Haltons and is an advocate for diversity and focuses on building a harmonious workplace and community for all. Sheldon, say hi.
What up, everybody? Happy Thursday.
Michelle John. Michelle graduated from Sheridan's Legal Office Administration program. Michelle is currently a fire and life safety education officer and has spent the last 10 years in this role, interacting and educating the residents of Brampton. She teaches residents of all ages of the importance of being fire safe. Take a bow, Michelle. Sonan Sherman. Sonan is currently the Associate Dean of Community Citizenship, Leadership and Engagement at Sheridan College. He is passionate about improving the lives of students and is dedicated to influencing change on both policy and individual levels. So, take a bow, Sonan. That is good. We're going to start our question. If I can, I think I'm hearing a little bit of background noise. So maybe if you're not speaking, you may want to put yourself on mute. Thank you for that. But not you, Sheldon. I'm starting with you.
All right.
So I know that I have briefly introduced you, but I would like for you to walk us through your experience, especially with regards to volunteerism and community engagement, and talk to us about what initially inspired you to get involved in the community.
That's a great question. So unlike Ingrid, I didn't grow up in a volunteering type of family. Volunteering was more making sure I was available to do housework, chores, homework, and everything around the house that made the household family, happy. Volunteering came in a little bit after. It was when I started to realize that I was blessed with opportunities that many others were not blessed with opportunities to have. Seeing the difference between how my education has helped me and how I was able to put that back into my career and to my success, and looking to find ways to share that. Specifically, the role I play on the Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton, that started by an initiative for a group of us in Milton looking to create our own Caribbean Association in Milton. That stretched out and reached out to, doing some research and realizing that other areas had already developed this, and wanted to jump on the success of others and then expand that success out. What I would say, though, for the people that are listening is start earlier. Get in there when you're younger, get those networks in there and get your hands dirty. It's so fulfilling. It really makes you feel like you're doing a lot for the community when you lay in your bed with sore feet because you've been serving food all day, or you've been, at an event all night long with no pay. And when the naysayers come to you and say, hey, but you're not getting paid for this, what's the point? You touch your heart and you say, I'm doing it for the good of all humanity. Right. So that's pretty much what I would summarize volunteerism and why I would suggest other people to jump into it as well.
That's really amazing, and you are so right. I did not have that background where I'm taught to volunteer. Even with housework, it's not volunteering. You have to do it.
Yes,
it's part of what you need to do.
100%.
And so, what factors did you consider? And this is still you, Sheldon. What factors did you reconsider when you were thinking about which organization should I choose? How can I connect with them? How did you reach out to them?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, what it was is just looking within at my own community, right? And how we could work together to improve the perspective of our community, from others looking in. And it began by looking there and saying, okay, what have I experienced in terms of the perceptions in my community, and what do I want this perception to look like? Now that I have this kind of linear viewpoint, how do I interject myself into this perspective? And so we looked at multiple different avenues of doing that. Again, creating our own. However, looking at the Caribbean, the Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton, they had already created this, and that's how I connected with them to start volunteering. And since then, I was on a call earlier on this month, and I was called a volunteer geek. So it gets kind of addictive to help others.
That is really awesome. I must say thank you for all that you do for our community. We all somehow benefit from the work that you do. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Sonand, I'm going to come to you. So as you know, the theme of today's session is Your Brand Matters. So talk to us, how have you enhanced your personal brand through through volunteering to the community?
I'm going to take a different perspective than Sheldon. So appreciate that, touching the heart is obviously what attracts people to volunteering, and that is making a difference in your community. But if I can talk about the other perspective, which really is investing in yourself through the investment in your community. So if I could specifically, could you repeat that question again for me, Evangeline? Sorry about that.
Oh, for sure. I was just wondering, as you know, we are talking about investing in yourself, personal branding, your personal mission. And I'm wondering how volunteering to the community, engaging with the community has helped you with your personal branding.
Great question. I mean, similar to Sheldon, I really wasn't sure where to start. And I looked directly into my religious community or cultural community, as well as my direct neighborhood. And I started to get involved in a personal cause. My father passed away from cancer, so I really started to volunteer with the Canadian Cancer Society because that meant a lot to me. So, I mean, I was drawn for the cause, to touch the heart and to do good in the world. But what I later found out in my career, it was those experiences that help amplify my brand and help me become marketable. And specifically, our keynote mentioned it, but skill development. For me, after university, before university, I didn't necessarily have experience, whether that be learning a new technical skill or relational skill. Volunteering for the Canadian Cancer Society taught me a lot. So really, I think what Ingrid opened up with is volunteering is real work. This is real experience. So the experiences I gained through volunteering not only demonstrated who I was, because it showed my commitment to the community, it showed work ethic, not only demonstrated that, but it demonstrated skills that I learned. And these skills are what became transferable in the workplace. So it's really looking at what you learned through volunteering and how that strengthens your marketability of who you are. And hindsight's 2020, and looking back, knowing that I have access and that my community is not limited to my direct neighborhood or to my religious culture or religion, expanding your horizons, really knowing that there is no limit to your community, and how that service is twofold, and that is serving your community, but helping strengthen your marketability, helping separate you from additional competitors who are going for the same job. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, there was close to 200 students on the call, and what I learned is that, often people hire for attributes and train for skills. So what I'm trying to say to our students is many of you are going to be graduating and you're going to be competing for the same job. It's this community involvement that strengthens your brand to show what type of person you are, but also what type of transferable skills you can offer an industry or an organization.
I think you're on mute.
Okay, sorry about that. Can you hear me now? So thank you so much, Sohan, for that wonderful response, and so sorry for your loss. It is amazing how personal heart, can ignite us to take action and move into the right space. Can I follow up on that and ask you, how important was it for you to get involved in a cause that has some personal, you have personal experience?
It's so important. I mean, the motivation for why you get involved or why you volunteer is never generally about building a resume. It's about truly being motivated to a cause that either resonates with you or where you can see a tangible difference. For me, if I can be straight, I didn't know if I belonged. I didn't know if I belonged outside of what was safe with me. I didn't know if I belonged, volunteering at a hospital or a Canadian Cancer Society. And I was scared as a young person to try or to reach out. So how important was it? It was the underlying motivation which guided me to service and inevitably led me 20 years, 30 years down the road to be in a role where I focus on serving. So it really strengthened the importance for me. I mean, if I could give you the contrast really quickly, I also volunteered with adults with developmental disabilities, and I quickly learned that my skill set wasn't appropriate for that for that industry, and that it takes a very special person or people to work in that field. So I also learned the opposite, that although a cause resonated with me and drew me to that, I also have volunteered and learned where I'm not a good fit.
That is really an important point that you just made, because, oftentimes we think about volunteering, just go anywhere, just volunteer anywhere, but that point is so key for personal growth, for skill growth, for career growth. We actually need to kind of be intentional about where we volunteer. So I like that. And I'm coming to you, Michelle, because that brings us to group. How has your volunteering to community, how has that enhanced your personal growth and professional development?
It's a very good question. Volunteering helped me develop who I am as a person. And you're so right, Sanan. It does make, there's certain areas of volunteering that you fit, and there's certain areas where you don't fit. And you have to find that. And in order to find that, you have to be able to volunteer to go out there to find those areas where you do fit. So for me, I did not grow up in that household where I was taken to areas where I had to volunteer. I didn't have that. So I came into it rather late. Just like my other panelists here. But you're so right, Sheldon. It's so good to start early, and that's what I encourage my children to do, start early. But for me, starting later, it helped me to develop who I am as a person, helped me to develop more of that empathy to see that what I have, I am blessed with, and that ability to give back. It helped me to realize that I am planting a tree. One of my friends said to me the other day, he says, Michelle, you're planting a mango tree. Because being from the Caribbean, right? You're planting a mango tree that you may not have any of the fruit, but somebody else coming along, they will enjoy the fruit. And that sort of resonated with me, because I think back to when I was a little girl. I was born in Trinidad, but I spent a lot of time in Tobago, and on our property in Tobago, there's a lot of mango trees that I did not plant, but I enjoyed it. So that just resonated in my mind to think that is what volunteering is that you are planting something into your community that other people will benefit from it, because you get to see just how much you have, and that there are other people out there who can really benefit from the skills that you have, from the gifts that you've been given, from that desire to help. And that is how I have built my brand, that heart desire to help, that feeling that I can make someone's day that much more better than yesterday.
Wow. That was really wow. As you were speaking, I'm thinking about all of the orange and banana and all the fruits that we enjoy that we don't know who planted, but we keep enjoying it. And that is such a wonderful analogy. And I'm gonna come back to you, and I know that you perhaps touched it on it a little bit, but talk to me. You started late. How were you able to navigate that and weave it into your career, your family life, and everything?
It takes commitment. It takes that desire to to show the example to your children. I'm blessed with 3 sons, and one of the things I've, in schools right now, they encourage children to go out and to volunteer. When I was in high school, not that I'm dating myself, anyone, but when I was in high school, that was not part of our curriculum, but it became part of the curriculum as with this new generation. But it just takes commitment, that desire to be able, that you want to help, whatever time that you have, whether it be a longer period of time or a shorter period of time, every little bit helps. Because if we stand back and say that, I don't have the time to do it and it's not going to make a difference because it's just a little bit of time, then, it's when you add a little bit to a little bit to a little bit, it all adds up. So you've got to start somewhere. So for me, with navigating children and helping them with homework and so forth, you bring them along and help them to see that, yeah, this is part of what we do in our community, because our community gives to us and we give back to them, and that's how we grow together as a community.
Absolutely, well said. And I will connect with you offline to share tips on how to manage boys. I have 4.
Oh.
Okay, Sheldon, I'm coming back to you with breaking barriers. With the pandemic, with everything we're going through in our world today, I think it's really so important that we understand how we can stand out. So when you were looking to connect to organizations or causes to volunteer with, did you experience any barriers? And if so, how did you respond?
Lucky enough, because the organization that I originally joined up with was from the same cultural background as me, right? We're from the Caribbean islands, so to Michelle's point, Julie Mango was a regular conversation, right? However, being in those positions, the barriers came up when you were doing some volunteering, right? So sometimes you're in an environment and they're not as comfortable as you are in that environment because they see you as an outsider, or maybe you don't fit the description of a volunteer that they're used to seeing. Other places that could have the issues is when you're looking at broader things. If you're looking at grants or larger investments into the association, how then do we get to that point when typically we're not the ones at the table? So those barriers we have to break through as an organization as well. But I have to say, overall, because of the selection of the volunteerism I've done, it's been not a whole bunch of tension or friction along the way.
That's a good one. And if I may ask you, a lot of people say that volunteerism and community engagement are powerful tools for supporting individuals with navigating and perhaps overcoming diverse barriers. What are your thoughts?
100%. I mean, we're on the cusp of launching a new non-for-profit that's focusing on a certain community, and we're looking at exactly how we're going to structure that organization. And the way I look at it is anybody who's willing to give their personal time to volunteer when there's so much going on, to Ingrid's point, everybody has excuses of not enough time, or my job or my family. Anyone who's willing to give that time or give that opportunity to others and be so and sacrifice themselves for that is shows their character. And sorry, I think I lost track of the question there, Evangeline.
Let me think. I think I said something around people saying, a lot of people saying through volunteerism, you can learn to navigate the various barriers that we have. Yeah.
So I think I was on track and got kind of off. So what I was trying to get to is the fact that you are volunteering, the fact that you've taken that time and it's on your resume, or it's in your conversation, or it's on your social media post, puts you in a different box altogether. Puts you in a perspective from that person who's looking at the resume or looking at you as an individual and saying, this person is somebody I want on my team, because if they can do this for free, imagine what they will do for funds. So I think that's I think that's how I would look at how volunteering could definitely benefit people on both.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you about that. And just so let any one of you know, if you want to jump in, let me know, and I will be able to let you jump in on any particular questions that you want to address. And speaking of jumping in and addressing questions, Michelle, I think I'm gonna circle back to you because I'm thinking, in addition to personal and professional growth, what other benefits do you think that you derived from volunteering, especially at the late stage?
I got a chance to meet new people. Because had I not been out there, I would not have met, certain people. And certain people can also lead to helping develop your brand, direct you in an area where you never thought, or maybe they could be the ones that open a door. Right. So for me, it gave me an opportunity to meet new people, to connect with my community more, to find out what's happening in my community. What's going on around me? And sometimes that you won't get to find that out unless you step outside the door, unless you go out there and take that chance to connect and to meet new people. It gave me a sense of purpose, that this is what I want to do. It just made me feel as if I'm contributing to something bigger than me. So that's, for me, was some of the things that I felt volunteering did for me. And just seeing, the satisfaction in someone's face. There was a time, some friends of mine, we went downtown Toronto and we were handing out socks. And then, in doing so, we were talking to the people that were on the streets and, just getting to learn a bit of their story. And you have this perception of who you think people are until you actually get a chance to meet and speak with them, not judging that book by the cover, So those were some of that satisfaction, that sense of, I want to make someone's day that much better than yesterday. Little things. It doesn't have to be grandiose things, but even just the smallest of details that you do for someone's day, you've done something great.
I absolutely relate to that. This last year, I can't count how many amazing people that I have met, through this mission. And so you're absolutely correct. So Sonan, obviously, the pandemic has forced us to rethink on some of the ways that we engage with potential people in the community. So how has the pandemic impacted your ability to continue to engage? And how have you been able to, rebrand your personal mission?
Great question. I think what the pandemic has done is really just made things tougher for folks. So hunger needs always existed. Clothing needs always existed. These causes have always existed in our community. What the current pandemic has done has just complicated folks' access to it. What's interesting is, I'm glad you asked this question, because what's interesting is, as much as folks might think that volunteering opportunities have diminished in the pandemic, they've actually increased. Our communities need so much support right now as a result of not having access. So in terms of how people can get started, I mean, within Sheridan specifically, all of our students listening, there's multiple opportunities on the co-curricular record, the CCR, to get involved directly in your Sheridan community. I mean, shout out to Sheldon and Michelle. They're volunteering their time for the Sheridan community right now. So there's opportunity for you to look there through the CCR about getting involved here. But if you want to get involved in your community, organizations such as Volunteer MBC, so that's Volunteer Mississauga, Brampton, Caledon, have hundreds and hundreds of opportunities. And what's interesting is I hear the limitations of time, but I volunteer delivering meals on the weekend, which takes me 1 hour a week. And to be honest, I hope my boss isn't listening, but that is the most fulfilling part of my week, and it's not part of my job. I hope that answered your question.
By putting you in trouble? Well, that is absolutely true. I sometimes hear people say they work how many hours. I see you raising your hand, Michelle. You want to jump in?
Yes, I do. So then I would
Let's
like
go
to
ahead.
connect with you. I would like to connect with you to do that because, yeah, definitely. If we can connect with that, because I would like to be a part of something like that. Just yesterday, I was speaking to a friend of mine, and he's involved with this organization, and I said to him, whatever you guys need, let me know. So, Sunan, I would like to connect with you on that.
I think we just demonstrated networking at its finest. And that's how it works.
That is absolutely how it works.
And we got to connect. We have a No One Goes Hungry Halton initiative right now. So I think what you said is bang on. There's a lot more need for volunteering during this pandemic. So everybody who's kind of on the edge of their seats thinking about whether or not they're going to do it, this is a good time. And I mean, you can't do anything else, so you may as well get out there and help other people.
Get busy.
I think sorry, go ahead. I think the pandemic just gives that false illusion that you can't, Sunan, and thank you for saying that, and that false illusion that we can't continue helping others. But the need is so out there that we need to still continue in doing whatever we can to make sure that everyone's needs are being met. So yeah, we can still get out there and do what we have to do.
And I think that was my, sorry, Evangeline, just to jump in, I think that was my biggest limitation, is letting people tell me where I could and couldn't participate, what I should and shouldn't be doing, where was the limitations of my community. And I think just those on the call, it's about expanding your horizons and pushing the boundaries of where your community is. I don't have boundaries to my communities anymore.
I don't have boundaries to my communities. I love that.
So do I. That's a big hashtag right there.
Yes, we should do that. And I have to say the social media has helped all of us. So there is a saying, and I think it's by Alto Asher, the only African American player to win singles title at Wimbledon and the US and Australian Opens. And he once said, start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. For those who are looking for opportunities to get involved in their communities, do you think this is a good strategy to get started? And I'm going to leave it open to all of you.
I agree. I agree full-heartedly. Start where you are. So if it is just where you are right now in your community, maybe it's in your small circle, start where you are. One of the things I saw on television at news time is these little children who are doing these great things just to bring awareness and to help out during the pandemic. If little children can do it, that's just a indication that we can also learn from what they're doing and just make it that you are. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be big. You don't have to. Someone said to me one time, Michelle, you don't have to save the world, but you need to save the world that little area of where you are. You have to start there. That's your world. You may not be able to reach out and touch every corner, it's the four corners of this world, but where you are, you can definitely start there and save that part of your world.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, in Jamaica, they say every mickle make a muckle, which means any little bit helps.
Yep.
Right? So look at your neighbor. Start from the closest person to you. Volunteering doesn't have to be part of an association, doesn't have to be part of a group, doesn't have to be part of a board. It has to be whenever you see the opportunity to do unto others as you want others to do unto you, take that opportunity to do that. And you will be fulfilled multiple times for actually stepping outside of yourself and stepping into somebody else's shoes. Mm-hmm. And what Michelle said is just classic. I mean, that's exactly what needs to be done. Going downtown, giving socks to people without socks. Imagine not having socks, right? Simple things like that. I think most of the people that are here that haven't done it yet, have felt that way and maybe just had that little restriction of how do I get involved? What do I do? And it's just to start small and start to build up from there. I think that's really the best way to start volunteerism and then to grow that base.
Thank you for that. Sheldon, you want to join before I check in and see how we're doing with questions?
I would say that my panelists have been quite eloquent in answering this question, that every little step counts. I really preferred how Sheldon said it previously, but it is, every little step makes a difference, and you look at your direct community, look in and around, and I hope to get into some questions about opportunities within the direct Sheridan community.
Thank you for that. I'm going to be checking with our team, our awesome technical team, and my co-host Bolu to see what we're doing and how we're doing with questions. Hey, Bolu, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, so Bolu is a certified, congratulations, I saw that.
Thank you.
Certified business analyst student with Sheridan College. And he is going to help us to bring forth your questions to the panelists. Go ahead, Bolu.
Thank you. Thank you, Evangeline. Amazing insight you've given us tonight. I really appreciate. And the first question we have on here is for Sunand. And the question says, you mentioned that there are a lot of volunteering opportunity here in Sheridan. So the person want to know if there are remote opportunities and how can they find them online?
Great question. So right now at Sheridan, we're exploring virtual volunteering. So stay tuned on Sheridan Central for the volunteering pages, which are actually currently being created. There was a lot of logistics we had to figure out with respect to how we can contribute virtually. And what our students have said, just like our graduates, is they want to give back to the Sheridan community. They want to give back to students who are isolated. They want to give back and make a difference. So with that being said, stay tuned on Sheridan Central for those opportunities. But outside of volunteering, getting involved, there's many opportunities which are currently listed on, as I mentioned, your co-curricular record, which is on Living Works. I would also say for our students, please follow along in your weekly newsletter digest, because there's volunteer forums which are giving opportunities for students to provide their voice. So those would be the three main areas. But when I said there's multiple opportunities in the outside community, those are going to be some of the resources that we'll share with you folks.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for that insight. Thank you. So, and the second question, anyone can take that, because, but this person want to know what are the unexpected benefits or skills that you have gained through your volunteerism over the years. So anyone can jump in to add to that.
Okay, I guess I'll jump in. So, you know, you go to Sheridan and you take your course and you graduate, and then you get a job and you learn that from that job. You take another job, you learn that from that job. A lot of volunteering is a hybrid, right? It's not as if you're in a specific role that says, okay, you're salesperson or you're marketer or you're design or you're whatever the case may be. In volunteering, it's all hands on deck, really. So wherever there's a little bit of a gap, you will learn that skill set real quick if you want to really participate. So I think that's one thing that will help to, you know, broaden your scope. And then on top of that, what it does, it just teaches you that other people are good. You know, like there's other people that are volunteering with you that are doing the same thing you're doing and have the same perspective you have on the world as what they could do. And that's a wonderful feeling when you look around and see, you know, you do your 1 hour drive around to bring food, or you spend, you know, the weekend with your group, or you have a board meeting with people that should be having dinner, but they're sitting down, you know, coming up with ways to help the community. That's something that you learn that really, really starts to spark and gives you that extra motivation to do more, right? So that's what I think is the two different points that I think really shine by getting involved.
Thank you. Thank you. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
And Bolo, may I just add something to that one, please?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
So first of all, my apologies. I said Living Works. I meant Sheridan Works for CCR. Just a bit of clarity. Living Works was actually the place that I volunteered. So my apology. But I think what was an unexpected learning for me is how to volunteer safely during the pandemic. Understanding health clearances that are required when serving food. Understanding how to remain safe in serving your community. Because first and foremost, let's not confuse that volunteering is to put yourself in any harm's way, right? So for me, that was quite an unexpected skill that I learned in understanding health clearances and understanding regulations, but also understanding supply chain logistics. How do we get food to people in a safe manner? So I think that was something that was very unexpected for me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing this with us. Another thing that someone asked here that I'll also ask tonight is, what are the questions that we can ask ourselves that to make us know the right volunteering we can go into? Like I'm sure before I can go into volunteering, there are some things you would like to advise us to look into or to think of when we look inwards. What are the things we should think of or the questions we need to ask ourselves before we can go for a particular type of volunteering?
Excuse me, I'll take that. So know what your interests are. You know, what are those things that interest you? What are those things that you would like to learn more about? What sort of skills do you bring to your volunteering? What do these organizations, what do they stand for? So it's doing some, some homework on your own just to find out more about the organizations that you want to get involved with. So what do they stand for? What is the sort of, how are they in your community? What are they doing in the community that you want to get involved with them? So looking inwards and looking outwards. So looking inwards to yourself to know, what touches my heart? What is it that, like Sinan said, that when he thought of, when he went to volunteer with the people with special needs, he realized that that was not his area of volunteering. So, but his heart was there, but that was not his area. But you should know, what your heart is. Get out there and explore different things, and then you will find out what your niche is. Because in order for you to find out what your niche is, you've got to do something. Because if you're not doing anything, then you won't know that, hey, I'm good at this. Oh, you know what? This is what I prefer doing, or this is what I like to do. So just being out there and knowing and thinking about what interests you.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
To echo what Michelle says, it has to be a skill of passion, right? And because it is your free time, and the more you love what you're doing, the more you'll do what you're doing. Mm-hmm. All the Sheridan students here will eventually graduate and get to a job, and they may not get exactly what they want to get out of that job. Let's be honest, right? Volunteering, you have the opportunity to seek out that passion project that can help fulfill that need for you to actually give back or do what invigorates you and drives you. So I think the questions you ask is what invigorates me and what drives me, and where can I go exercise that talent that I have inside me, outside of the skill set that education and such have taught me.
I think a very simple question that we add to this, great comments from our panelists here, but a very simple question is, how much time can I commit? Right? Just a simple, logical, number one, first and foremost, for all the students, you're here to study. But how much time can I commit with my family demands, with my life? Because knowing and committing to an organization, they need that commitment. So it's important if you commit to something that requires X amount per month, then make sure you know your time.
You know what, man? that was exactly what I was going to say, but I saw that you wanted to speak. So I said, okay, let him speak, and then I'm going to add that in. So true, because it's one thing for you to say that you're going to volunteer and do something, and then you don't show up. And then you say, oh, yeah, next time, I'm sorry. Or at the last minute, they're expecting you, waiting on you, and then you don't call them, you don't reach out to communicate with them that something is happening in my life that right now I can't get to. But you need to, if you're going to volunteer, you have to commit, and commitment also includes communication with those people that you're volunteering with. Because if something is happening and you cannot get there, you need to communicate with them instead of leaving them there waiting on you and you don't show. And so that does not build your brand at all. It actually builds a type of brand, but it's not the brand of dependability that they're, when you may need to use them as going forward in your professional life to say, I would like to use this person as a reference. And what memory is left with them is the fact that you are not dependable. Imagine that is what you're leaving with them, and how are they to give you a good reference later on if you do require that from them. So you've got to be able to let your word be your bond. As I would tell my boys when they were growing up, that your bond is your word. And if you say that you're going to be there for 6, be there for 5:45. But you've got to be committed, not just in words, but actually in actions too.
Amen. When you tied that volunteer hours and brand together, I nearly jumped out of my seat, because it is your brand, right? And you can, if this is how the brand transfers over, right? This is career conversation. This is how it transfers over. If you're going to do this for free, then you're going to be even a better employee going forward. And you're going to respect yourself enough to respect how you act with other people around you. So 100% is your brand. 100% your word is your bond. And that connection, that little baton handout there was wonderful. I love that.
I'm going to just flip this in terms of the questions we're asking. The question was really about what questions do I ask to help me find volunteer opportunities. But I also think that self-reflection at the end of a volunteer opportunity or during an opportunity is so critical for career growth and being able to express that growth to an employer. So not only upfront, what is it that I want to do? How much time commitment do I have? What are my interests? What are my values? But post-position or during position, what have I achieved? Building in that critical self-reflection about where I pushed my boundaries, where I stretched myself. It's one thing to keep doing what you're good at. It's another thing to push yourself and not only push yourself, but be able to articulate how that volunteer experience, that transferable experience actually leads to you being employable. So whether it's pulling out that this has taught me relationship skills, team building skills, or technical skills, using Excel, so on and so forth, it's very important that there's critical self-reflection up front in terms of what you want to do, during to make sure it is you're seeing how it is giving you that value add, and to the end to reflect, to make sure that is that the development is tangible so that you can speak to an employer if that is what you're doing.
That is really perfect, so I had to chip in there. Amazing. And as you all were speaking and addressing very important issues here, I was thinking too, if I'm a student and I'm thinking, can volunteerism provide me with an opportunity to learn new skills? What do you think?
Of course.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. And in a different environment, right? Your resume is going to tell you what you could do. I went to school for business administration, focused in marketing. Probably not going to get a job in a doctor's office, right? But I can get a job volunteering in a doctor's office and learn new skills there, right? There's a matrix typically required for certain associations for you to become a member to ensure you have a skill set that helps out. However, for a lot of volunteerism, it's just do you have the time? As Sunan would say, do you have the time to commit? Are you going to stay on time, like Michelle said? And, well, here's some opportunities to do stuff. We have a gap here. Can you figure this out? No problem. I've never done this before. Let me try. Because, as I said, every little bit that you put in helps out the whole association or the whole volunteering effort itself. So if there's a hole and you can figure it out, then it's something that you wouldn't have learned in your day-to-day, your education streams or your post-education streams as well. So definitely an opportunity to learn way more than you currently have on your plate.
I strongly agree with that. Several years ago, one of my sons, I had him volunteering at Habitat for Humanity. Oh, he complained. Oh, Mom, it's for free. I'm not getting paid. Oh my goodness. He later on applied for a job at Rona. And sure enough, some of the things that he learned at Habitat, he was able to apply it at Rona. Oh, thanks, Mom. I didn't get that. Thanks, Mom, by the way. But it doesn't matter because the job was done. He was able to learn new skills for free. And some of those things that you get to learn is because you're working alongside people who are working in that field, and they're lending their time at this particular area, and you come along and you get to learn new things from them that you would not have been able to learn before, because now you have now opened yourself up to an area where you can now receive and learn from someone else, and then you can possibly, whatever skills that you have, you can also teach it to them too. So it's a two-way street. You get to learn from them and they get to learn from you. So it is always an opportunity when you're volunteering for you to learn something new. And I always think to myself that whether I'm volunteering or not volunteering, every day in life is an opportunity to learn new things, because every day as we walk through this life, we have that opportunity to learn something new. And even in my job as an education officer, and during this pandemic and doing a lot of virtual presentations, the other day I was doing something in some platform, and I think it was grade 4 students, they were telling me how to navigate through. Yes, grade 4, but I did not mind, because I said to them, guys, I'm here to teach you stuff, and look at you guys teaching me stuff. And it was great. And from there, I learned that. And then for my next presentations, which was on the same platform with another school, I was like, yep, I know how to navigate this, because I had some grade 4s that taught me how to do this a couple last week some point. But in spite of the volunteering, always look for opportunities to learn something new in your everyday life.
Amazing. Bolo, do you have another question?
Yes. Thank you so much for the insight. I just feel like jumping out right now, volunteer in areas I've been looking at already. Thank you. So from your experiences and observations over the years, what role does volunteerism and community engagement have in affecting positive social changes or social change? I think Sheldon can take it. Sheldon,
that's a deep one, right? So the community at large has a responsibility to react to social injustices, and individuals do a great job on their own. But when a group comes together and organizes, put structure together, and formulates a plan to do something, it makes a bigger difference, right? Yeah. So I think that's, that's where it comes, that's where the rubber hits the road, is when the community leaders come together and say, hey, Evangeline, Michelle, Sunan, and Abolu, let's get together and do something different. Let's go march here and have a rally, or let's have a conversation with the police officers about making actual change. Because you're not going to get that in your day-to-day job. You're not going to have a career typically that says, let's focus on making social change. It's typically done by individuals with their own agendas to help the broader, the broader community. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
You're doing a great job with the questions. I'm really enjoying this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And this, I still have one more question, which I'll direct to Michelle. I know she has mentioned the fact that she's a mother, how she's been able to help our kids to go through different volunteering opportunities. So how can a family volunteer together in the community?
Funny you should say so. There is something that's coming up right now. It's the coldest night, the longest night of the year, I think it is.
Coldest night.
Coldest
yes.
night. Coldest. There's one. There's two. There's one is the longest. So anyway, the coldest night. It has. So I'm going to be enlisting my sons to volunteer with me. I tried to enlist them last year, but they're adults now, they're grown. And anytime I've gotten them into doing some volunteering, oh, Mom. But, later on they thank me. But that is how I'm going to have to bribe them somehow. I don't know. I'll have to do what I need to do because they're grown men now, right? But, just trying to encourage your as a family, find that one thing that speaks to your family, as what your family stands for, what they believe in, and together get together and do it. That's basically it. Just do it. Whatever your heart is as a family, if you can agree that the coldest night of the year, which it doesn't really sit well with them because they don't like the cold, but once I put it to them in the fact that we're helping other people who are less fortunate than us, then they'll see my point of view. But but as a family together, you just have to find that one thing that you stand on, that speaks to your family, that's important to you, that you see as valuable, and helping others and working together to get it done.
And a bit of a selfish thing on that too, Michelle, that I've been able to benefit from is, when you sit there and say, if you don't finish your food, some people out there don't have any food.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go see some people that don't have any food.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's give some perspective to this environment that you're blessed to have, and look at the other side of the coin, and then help to teach them exactly what it means to have and not to have.
Yeah, and, exactly.
To your point, you really want to involve them in things that are beneficial and that reflect your family morals and family goals.
Yeah.
So, like I said, there's a bit of a personal spin when I bring my son volunteering, is to show him, this is what Daddy does. But Daddy does this because other people don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
So don't take for granted your Switch and your PlayStation and your big screen TV. Some of these people don't have any of that.
Exactly.
Let's take a look outside, and maybe you'll grow up in a different perspective. Because I didn't have that growing up. I didn't have that perspective. Ingrid did. I think a lot of us on the line didn't. It would be great to have that, to be able to say when you're later on in life, saying, yeah, I remember when I was 9 years old handing out free food on a Saturday afternoon when I'd rather be running around the park. But I learned something from that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it's generational wealth, right? It's just getting that down the pipeline so that we're nurturing the next generation of volunteerism from the root.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it is so true, because it has to start somewhere, so that they can see that they're blessed beyond measure, and that giving back to someone else is just part of building your community. And that's what needs to happen. If each one builds one, then we will have a community that looks after each other, instead of us just being here just for ourselves, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to look after each other. And volunteerism is just exactly that, is in looking after the community that you live in. And it may not necessarily just be only Brampton. It may just be somewhere where you are in Toronto, or somewhere where you are in Ajax, or wherever it is. That's all part of the community. Because if I'm driving through a place like Ajax and I see someone is in need of help, I'm going to stop to help them. So that's all part of your community. We all need to be able to help each other, and so that we can all have that much better of a life, of a day.
And then just to wrap it all up and bring it back to the, the hashtag at the top there. When we talk about our brand, it's not necessarily always your marketable brand. I mean, a lot of times we have to look inside ourselves, right? We have to take, Michael Jackson said, the man in the mirror. So what is your brand to yourself? You have to be able to look at yourself positively in the morning. It doesn't matter what your resume says at the time. It doesn't matter what your job says. What is your brand to yourself? And you'll have that ability to build on that brand by giving back to others and wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I did a good thing last night. I could have been out playing poker with the boys or playing dominoes all night, or pre-COVID, I could have been out clubbing. But I was out helping the community, and I feel better about myself. And I think that's the other side of the brand, is the brand for yourself and your own independence and how you look at yourself, because that reflects on everything. And that type of confidence will get you any job that you're looking for, because you know you're a good person, you know you got it in you, and you know what you have to offer.
Amen to that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Bolu. I think we have one more question.
Yes, one last question. And this question is that, how is Sheridan, and I'll direct this question to Sunan because he's a Sheridan staff. So how is Sheridan making Black and Indigenous high school students feel welcomed and supported?
That's a great question. First and foremost, I would say, just from a personal level, I'm proud of the environment that we try to create for all students. It's one thing to have diverse community, but it's another thing to have intentional efforts to support the historically marginalized communities and taking tangible efforts. I think if we speak specifically to the Bolu, you reference Indigenous population, as well as our Black students, I think if we first look at a saying that I've learned from some of our Indigenous colleagues, is nothing about us without us. Meaning Sheridan is actively doing what we're doing today and creating forums for our students to provide voice, giving them the platform to provide constructive feedback to what they want to see in their Sheridan community. First and foremost, our welcoming environment, wherever we're always learning, but we create those platforms. If I specifically look at your question, Bolu, it was about high school students. And I think, there's many things that we do. We do virtual open houses, which allows students to connect directly with faculty. We have tours on campus, or when we were on campus, we had tours which would allow individuals to understand what it is that our community is and how they will become part of our community. If I think of our Sheridan Student Union, we have many clubs which specifically relate to our Indigenous and Black students. But some of the things I think that are really proud about being a part of the Sheridan community is, recognizing some of the obstacles is one thing, but understanding putting solutions in place is another. And what I'm really proud about is Sheridan's work with financial aid. So specifically, there's financial aid specifically for the Indigenous students, as well as Black student financial aid, which started last year. So this is how we're supporting them from the first day, welcoming them, understanding that our community is diverse, providing the platform, but also some tangible, specific tools and orientations to help create that community and support our students, excuse me.
I got to say, when I went to Sheridan Brampton for my first year, and then I went to Sheridan Oakville, primarily because all my friends I knew from high school started going to Brampton. I was like, I want a fresh start from that community. But what you're saying right now, Sunan, is very inspiring, because when I went to Sheridan 20 plus years ago, there wasn't a lot of diversity. There wasn't a lot of programs. There definitely wasn't any forums for the BIPOC community at that time. So kudos for Sheridan for stepping up and doing something, and realizing that gap and doing something about it. It was a bit of a culture shock for myself, because it was 1 or 2% of non-Black or non-white people at that time, 20 odd years ago. And knowing that Sheridan has progressed in the last 2 decades to be very inclusive and to have sessions like this makes me excited. And to the people that have logged on to watch this, you should be proud of the people that have put this together, proud of the staff that is focusing on this community, on your community, and do what you can to volunteer to help for the next 20 years so that it's even better for the next generation of people jumping in. So kudos to you and the Sheridan staff for that.
I want to echo that same thing, Sheldon, because when I went to Sheridan, and there was nothing of that nature. And to see something like that now it is inspiring. It is great. It's telling me that change is happening, and that is a good thing to see. That change is happening. To see that they recognize that something needed to be done, and they're doing it. Even just this forum tonight it just shows me that their branding is that it matters. It matters about their diverse group of students, their population in Sheridan, and they want to make a change. So Sheridan's brand is just inspiring me to see that it does matter, and that this change is happening. Because when I went to Sheridan, there was basically black and white. That was it. And so when I walked through the halls of Sheridan last year, the year before, and the year before, I was very happy to see what I saw, because that was not when I was there. So yeah, so Sheridan, great job.
If I could just add one last comment to that, I think the other thing that is great is Bolu is a prime example of a student leader. And I think role modeling in our community based on merit, based on skills, based on that. And I think that having student leaders like Bolu says a lot. And I think that demonstrating that student leadership is role modeling, and it's very powerful for other students who are on the call to see. And just again, another shout out to you, Bolu, because you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I must chip in there, mentorship, right? Sheridan, I've been known to invest heavily in mentoring the students. And that's why we're here today through the alumni students, providing that support, helping to propel students forward. It's also all of the things that I know, Sheridan, that you guys are heavily involved in. So kudos to you all. Thank you so much for what you do. I'm looking at the time, and I think we probably have one more question, be able to have time for one more question before we call it a night. And I know that every one of us, we've really talked heavily about benefits of volunteerism, about how, volunteering help you to broaden your network. So I'm going to please ask that, maybe 1 minute, each one of you, talk to me as a student who is now thinking, I need to get involved, I need to volunteer, and I know all the things that I need to do. But at the same time, I'm looking for work. How can I now translate that volunteer hours into my resume?
Well, I think it's important to put it onto your resume, because it lets your future employers see the skills that you bring to your new job or new opportunity. I always tell students, especially high school students, that how important volunteering is, because of the skills that they will learn, that they will be able to transfer over into their jobs. Because sometimes, especially if you don't volunteer and you're going into a job, you don't have any of those skills that you can bring to that job. But whereas if you're volunteering, you're not starting off brand new. You can bring those skills onto your resume, and that way it would show to that employer that, oh, this person's volunteered here and here. For instance, an example, I like to give examples. My two older boys, when they were younger, I had them in Air Cadets. And when they got older, one of them, when he was applying for a job, he had that on his resume that he was part of Air Cadets. And the employer said, wow, that is really good that you were part of Air Cadets. And they got a little conversation as to what he did in the Air Cadets and X, Y, and Z. But those are the sort of things that can impress an employer, because it brings a certain level of skill set that, you know, that you're not starting off brand new, that you can put onto a resume, and they can see that you were involved with this. And this can be that push that you need to get into that job.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. And I'm looking at the time, being mindful of that. Bolu, do you want to give us one or two remarks?
All right, thank you so much. Thank you very much, Evangeline. And I would like to use this opportunity to thank everyone and also to show my appreciation to be here tonight, because I've actually learned so much tonight. And I appreciate the opportunity to participate in this important and insightful conversation as part of celebrating Black History Month. So as a student of this college, I am thankful for this opportunity to hear from Black alumni and community professionals that I can relate to, people who have gone through this school, even the same way like me. So, but tonight, I would like to say that one of the words I've seen in play is resilience. I've seen how you all have been resilient over the years. And this word has inspired me tonight, I must confess. And this is simply because Black people have demonstrated resiliency over the years through adversity they had to overcome in different areas of life. Conversations like this has helped us shape, challenge, and also ultimately strengthen our communities. I am very sure that everyone here have actually learned something tonight, which they can actually take home and also reflect on to see how we can make a difference or volunteer in our various communities. I would like to say a very big thank you to Ingrid Wilson for the keynote about the role of volunteerism in our community. Thank you so much for that great keynote. This is such an important topic for me as a student and for my fellow students that are also here as well. To our incredible panelists, Sheldon, thank you so much. Michelle, we say thank you. Sunand, thank you for coming. And we really appreciate the great insight you've shared with us tonight, personal stories that you've shared, and also the advice you've given unto us that can help us to make better decisions as we proceed with our various career or interests in life. I would like to say that we really appreciate everything you've done tonight. And Evangeline, we can't thank you enough for your great leadership that you've shown unto us, just to make sure that we all have a better career even as we proceed in our various careers. Thank you for your leadership, your knowledge, and passion that shines throughout tonight's conversation. We thank you for that. And I want to appreciate everyone who has made it to this program tonight. Thank you for coming. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you for joining us. We're so grateful to have you as part of our community tonight and to have you connect with us virtually. As we all know that the month of February is known as our Black History Month, and which is to honor the legacy and the leadership of Black people, both in the past and also in this present time. So I would like us to look at the programs that Sheridan College and Black Mentorship Inc. is putting together on their various websites to look at what we need to also join and look over. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great weekend. Thank you. Great evening. Sorry.
Amazing. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you,
Carol.
Bolu. I just want to add tonight Thank you again. Reiterate Bolu's thank you. But I also want to acknowledge the Sheridan staff who bring these sessions to life. Leslie, Alicia, Christina, Sandra, Nicole, Katie, Aaron, and Bolu. Your continued enthusiasm in delivering this program is a true expression of your commitment to our students. Thank you, team. Good night, everyone, and we hope to see you for the next session of our Career Conversation series in a few months. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.